Bonus footage. If you stuck around this long, I hate the wax on Knob Creek. It just explodes. This one has the 9-year age statement on it. This one doesn't. Both of these are good. I can't, like, if I had, okay, I'm gonna say it like this. I would sit down with any of these any day of the week. If I had to sit down and just want to relax in a nice, smooth, easy pour. Thanks for tuning in to Bourbon Drop. I'm your host, Myron. Today, I'm going to tell you why I don't turn right around and walk out of museum price stores. And we're also going to go over the Wild Turkey laser codes. So if you don't know how to read the Wild Turkey laser codes, we're going to cover that. Thankfully, they made it a little easier now going into 2025. Also, Dusties, man. Wait until you see some of the Dusties I got. So let me get a table set up for the Wild Turkey laser code breakdown, and then we'll get into why I really do not walk out of some of these museum stores. We're going to get into the laser code breakdown because Wild Turkey has this weird way of putting laser codes on the back of their bottles and you have no idea. So I'm going to start out with one of the most recent bottles. Since going into 2025, it used to be LL. Okay, so I think from 2014 up to 2025, everything was LL. That was whatever that bottling line was or whatever that they started that labeling practice with. Then you had another 2 letters before you had a series of numbers. Now the first letter stood for the year and the second letter stood for the month. Then the next 2 digits were for the day, and then the next 4 digits were for military time. Now, obviously they have a 24-hour operation because you'll see that some of these codes start with 00, being after midnight. All right, so I'm going to break down this one right here. This is the Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit that I just picked up recently. So you see it says LANB 20E1031. Now, the way to break that down is you start at the L and the A. So that's just like I said, the bottling line. Then you go over to the next 2 letters. So Wild Turkey, when they started the LL, they started with 2014 being the letter C. So you have to go all the way up. And I know it sounds like it can be confusing, but trust me, once you break it down, it's actually pretty easy. So you go 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Then you have to go C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. That's where you get the N at. So this one right here, like I said, going back to the photo, N being the first letter is going to be for 2025. Then the months are a little easier to decipher. So you have a B right here. B is going to be February. So the months start, January is A, February is B, March is C, April D, so on and so forth. But I am going to tell you, I do have some old bottles up here. This being my oldest, almost comes in at a wedding anniversary. It's a few days shy of a wedding anniversary, not to the year, but a few days shy of the day. So this one right here, the laser codes are a little harder to read, so I'm not going to put this one on camera because it really doesn't have much liquid in the bottle. But this is LL/EH. Like I said, you go from C being 2014 to D being 2015 to E being 2016. So this bottle, and I had to pick it up anyway because it had a handle. When do you see a turkey handle? This has an E, which is going to be 2016. Then the letter H, which is the 8th month, so that's going to be August. And then you have the next 2 digits being a 24, and then you have 0048. So that 0048, like I said, it must be a 24-hour bottling operation because that would be military time for 1248. But the reason why I don't walk out of stores with museum prices is because you can find some great bottles. You can find some old labels. So case in point, this is the newest Wild Turkey that I bought. This is from 2022 when you look at the laser code and you break it down. This thing was sitting on the shelf around a whole bunch of other bottles that were super, super pricey. So he had a B524 for $1.25. I think he had the Elijah Craig Toasted for what was that, $89.99. And he also had a Henry McKenna in there. I think he wanted $89.99 for. I walked into another store. This guy had this same exact bottle. This is the B523. $250. Man, that is insane. Now, needless to say, I walked out of that store empty-handed. He didn't have any old Dusties. He didn't have anything that I was really interested in. He had Knob Creek 18 for $218, but had an ECBP B523 for $249. Now, also, he had a Henry McKenna in there that he wanted $99 for. So that store, like I said, I walked out, didn't get anything, didn't have any Dusties, but I'm always on a hunt for Dusties. So the store that had this made me go back because they had this beautiful Dusty right here. So this is not necessarily a Dusty. This is the old label 1910. Yes, I paid a little more than I like to, $65.99. That's a bit pricey for 1910, especially knowing that I don't really care for 1910. It kind of grew on me. Some people have said that the new label 1910 was better. Some people said the old label 1920 was better than the new label. I think I did a blind years ago, and as much in my mind as I believe that, I don't think it turned out that way. Same thing with the Wild Turkey, the glass. That new glass turkey to me is Grady. I don't know about you guys, but to me it's Grady. I am a huge fan of the paper labels. Also, this store the store where I got this bottle from, this is a Bernheim, and I think they stopped using this badge in 2011 when they went to the 7-year being printed on it. This guy normally has dumb prices on whiskey. I mean, like, some of the stuff is ridiculous, but I walk in there one day. This should not have been $35.99, but at the same time, I go in there and he has this bottle sitting there with a price tag on it for $40.99. So like their pricing is all over the place sometimes, man. So you could actually be doing yourself a disservice when you walk into some of these stores and not take a look around. I mean, you might be missing out on things like this. This right here is Knob Creek. This right here is Knob Creek. Do you see the difference? This one has the 9-year age statement on it. This one doesn't. They took the 9-year age statement off in 2016, put it back on towards the end of 2019. But this tells me that with this label and the 9-year age statement in red on the bottom, that this is at least a 2015, maybe creeping in early 2016 bottle, and possibly even lower than that. So I don't know. I don't know. If you know how to read Jim Beam's codes out there, please somebody let me know, because this thing has a weird code on the front. It's L5254CLA, and then it's got 062381541. I don't know if that is June 23rd. I don't know. I don't know. I can't make it out. Can't decipher it. But you could be doing yourself a disservice, especially, like I said, if you like to hunt for Dusties. Now, also, thanks for checking out the channel. Now, I would love for you guys to go over to bourbondropstore.com, where you can get this amazing heavyweight hoodie, as well as the black Bourbon Drop tee. Don't forget about the blog. I've got recommendations for all whiskey drinkers from 80 proof all the way up to 130 plus. So you've got beginner, intermediate, and experienced bourbon drinkers. Don't forget about the bourbon news as well, because you can catch some of the latest bottles and what their mash bills are, their prices are, and what their notes are supposed to be according to the manufacturer. Now, I've got my different notes. You guys also keep an eye on the channel, because bottles that you see up here will be coming soon. Check out bourbondropstore.com, link below. I'm just going to stores that are off the beaten path. Now, I spent a little more than I wanted to spend. I think it was $75 for this Old Baker's, but I tell you what, I will do it again. I do it again in a heartbeat. The new Baker's, if you are a fan of the channel, you guys know I am not a fan of the new Baker's, but this thing right here, oh, I would pick this thing up every day of the week, all day long. And stick around, because I do have an old Dusty. You saw the Old Forester. I'm going to put it up against the new Old Forester 86. Now, you guys know I do a lot of high proof stuff here on the channel, but I am a fan of 86. I'm a fan of 86. Another store that was off the beaten path didn't have really bad prices. I actually only spent $17 for this. This was $16.99. This is an old Ezra Brooks, and we all know that Ezra sources. So the bottle, it says distilled and aged by Ezra Brooks Distillery, Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm trying to. I never was able to figure this bottle out. I think this bottle was as old as. I want to say this label is as old as 2004 to 2009. I'd have to check my dates again. I can't remember. But if you know anything out there, 90 proof black label with the log cabin, give me a shout. Put it in the comments. Also, this bottle right here was another bottle that I got from a store that has museum prices. Went in there, saw this. It was $35.99. I was hunting for Dusties. This thing right here is probably one of the best Jack Daniels I've ever had. This is low proof wise. This is the 86 proof green label, the Legacy. That thing right there, man, I'm telling you, this is one of the best low proof Jacks I've ever had. And I do not like most of the low proof Jack stuff. I don't even like the single barrel, the black label. Some of those can be good, but not many of them. Also, I go into a store that's off the beaten path. He has ridiculous prices on Buffalo Trace stuff, but his regular stuff was pretty much, even with everything else. He had Weller Special Reserve at $89.99. He had Buffalo Trace at $45.99, but he had a 9-year. This just says manager's pick. I am not expecting it to be something super special. We will, you know what? Let's crack it open and see right now. I'm not expecting this to be something super special because it said manager's pick. I've been in that store a few times. I know that store has they've increased their inventory because they always had a small bourbon section. They've increased their inventory. I'm a huge fan of ECBPs anyway, and ECBP private picks or PBs. And I just don't expect a lot from this because it just says manager's pick. Most of the time when you have pride and joy in your store's name is going to be on the bottle. All right, let's get into the nose. Super oaky, peppery, a little bit of like a bready note and a little bit of like stewed prunes or something. All right, get into the palate. The finish is quick. It was almost like fluffy whipped cream. The vanilla note came across as a fluffy whipped cream. The beginning was nothing but butterscotch. Like, wow. See, this is why I like a barrel proof Elijah Craig's, man. I wasn't expecting it to be super special. We know that the ECBPs have been letting us down lately. The finish was a little quick. I mean, the pepper is still going on. None of the sweetness is there. Let me see. Just a touch more. I might even have to cut this out for time's sake, but just in case I leave it in. All right, let's go back into the palate and nose. Still peppery, still super peppery. Getting more of that bready, doughy note. The finish just goes so quick and turns to char. Yeah, it just turns to char, but it's so good up front. I mean, it is so butterscotch heavy up front, man. Wow. I wasn't expecting anything special, but this right here, oh my gosh. All right, so I'm just gonna put this to the side for a second. All right, let me get the Old Forester up on the table. Now, this Old Forester right here, that store that was off the beaten path that I got the Elijah Craig from, had this, and he had two sitting down there, and when I saw it, my eyes almost popped out because I know that that's a different label. Now, this label was only in use for 3 years, 2014 to 2017, before they went to the signature bottle like this right here. They switched over to this in 2017, and it's been the same way ever since. But I want to get these two side by side. I'm not going to do it blind. Let me get my two Drug City Glens, and I'll be right back. like I said, I walked into the store, man, and saw this thing sitting there for $34.99. $34.99 is actually cheaper. Let me get that off of there. $34.99 is actually cheaper than most of these handles go for. I looked it up on the ABC website and they wanted $43.99. Looked it up on another website, they wanted $39.99. So it was like I said, his Buffalo Trace prices, which a lot of them do. Their Buffalo Trace prices are insane, but their regular stuff, sometimes you're like, wow, like you find a great deal. All right, so this is the old one, this is the new one. Let's get into the nose. Oh my gosh, that is so caramel, butter, popcorn, a little bit of that fingernail polish remover note, banana cream. Oh, bananas. Bananas on this one too. This one smells creamier though. I pick up a lot more oak and banana on this one than I do on this one. All right, so older one, let's get into this one. Graham crackers, banana now later, banana pudding with the little small wafer cookies in it. All right, get into this one. This one has a little bit more punch, pepper, more of a citrus note going on. Still picking that banana note up. These are look, if you guys, like I told you, if you don't know, I'm a fan of 86. I know I like drinking my higher proof stuff, but I am a huge fan of 86. This is a bit of a tosser. I don't know. I can't. Even though they're the same name products, they're coming across the palate different. This one is coming across the palate a little softer, a little more delicate. I love banana note anyway, so getting that in a whiskey is just always a plus for me. I like the punchiness of this one. I still like that banana note, but this one comes across with like that, like I said, like a banana pudding. Both of them have that banana now later note in the nose and on the palate. The graham cracker note I'm really feeling. Let me go back into it. Acetone note. A little punchier, a little more citrus. Both of these are good. I can't, like, if I had, okay, I'm gonna say it like this. I would sit down with any of these any day of the week. If I had to sit down and just want to relax and a nice, smooth, easy pour, I'm going with the older one. Less punchy, banana pudding, graham cracker. It just has that fingernail polish remover note that some people might not like. I don't mind that note as long as it's not super, super powerful. All right, let's get back into some of the other bottles that I picked up, not walking out of museum stores. Because like I said, you see those museum prices and the first thing you want to do is walk out, and that's not always a good thing to do, because you can pick up, and I know I already put the rare breed on the table, but you can pick up things like this. Now, I've been to certain stores that have Camp Nelson F's, and they're just sitting there. Like Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, I know is not the bee's knees to some people, but this is a product that if you get the Camp Nelson F, it might change your mind. I know this one right here, this Tyrone B, changed my mind. I am a huge fan of the Tyrone B. This thing is incredible. But yeah, man, don't cut yourself short. You know, walking away from good pickups like these, old, you know, dustier bottles that you don't see anymore. Then you get, I wanted to crack this, but I'm not trying to make this video too long. This Knob Creek, man, the one that got me started, like I said, started with Booker's, and I knew I couldn't do that all the time. So Knob Creek is just like was the second bottle behind Booker's. And when I started getting that butterscotch note, I was like, oh my gosh. So with that being said, let the whiskey flow. Never run out unless you hit it to a drop. Till next time. And bonus footage, if you stuck around this long, I hate the wax on Knob Creek. If you stuck around this long, gosh, it just explodes. All right. Oh, you get this rich oak, a super heavy chocolate note, like a sweet dough note. I've said it before, like a Krispy Kreme. You could say maybe a some type of coated peanut. That is, man. All right, into the palate. That is done perfect. That's classic Knob Creek, classic oak, classic caramel, hint of butterscotch, slight bit of citrus. It leaves the palate with this like woodiness. I've said it before. Popsicle sticks. Oh, the nose on that thing, man. The nose, like I said, sweet dough note, man. Sweet dough, a little bit of chocolate, almost like a milk chocolate now, maybe like a milk chocolate covered peanut. Heavy in the vanilla notes. Caramel butterscotch oak. Out.